My name is Tiffany Q, and welcome to my ABRSM Grade 5 Theory Lessons series, where I record snippets of my live lessons with my students. Please note that this is not a substitute for a textbook. If you're preparing for the theory exam, I would still recommend having a teacher to guide you through both the coursework and exam paper preparation. Today we're going to be looking at major keys and scales, specifically the circle of fifths. So for the sharps keys, we go up a perfect fifth for the next key. So we start in C major, which has no sharps or flats, and if we go up a perfect fifth from C major, we get G. So this here will be our next key with one sharp, F sharp, G major. And then if we go up a perfect fifth from G, we get D. D major has two sharps, F sharp and C sharp. So every time when we get to the next key, we are adding on a new sharp, but including all of the previous sharps from the previous key. A fifth from D major is A major, which has three sharps, F, C, and G. Up a fifth again, we get E major with four sharps, F, C, G, and D sharps. Go up a fifth again, we get B major, which has five sharps, F, C, G, D, and A. And then finally, because we only go up to six sharps for grade 5, if we go up a perfect fifth from B major, we also get F sharp major, which has six sharps, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, and E sharp. The other way you could sort of identify the perfect fifths, you can count the semitones, which is what we were looking at in the pitch section. We could also go to the fifth note of the scale. So the fifth note of C major gives us G major. The fifth note of G major gives us D major, and so on and so forth. So in this case here, the fifth note of B major, which is the scale is B, C sharp, D sharp, E, and F sharp, is the next key. So that is for the sharps. For the flats, they go up a perfect fourth. So we haven't looked at the interval of perfect fourth yet, but think of it as the fourth note of each major scale. So C major, again, we're starting here, has no sharps or flats. We go to the fourth note of C major, and we get F major, which has one flat, B flat. Then we go to the fourth note of F major, which you might notice happens to be B flat itself. So we get B flat major, B flat, and E flat. And then B flat major up a fourth is E flat, B, E, A, and so on and so forth. So A flat major has B, E, A, D, D flat major, B, E, A, D, G, and then finally G flat major, B, E, A, D, G, and C flats. Now you may notice that G flat major is the enharmonic of F sharp major, which brings us to this beautiful diagram here called the circle of fifths. So the circle of fifths, usually we will read this going in a clockwise motion, but if you go anti-clockwise, you can start and add in all the flats keys. So let's go clockwise first. So C major, we're going to just look at the outside clock, part of the clock. Let's not take a look at the minors one. We'll look at that in another lesson. So C major, up a fifth G, one sharp, two sharps D, three sharps A, four sharps E, five sharps B, and six sharps. We have F sharp here or G flat. Okay, don't worry about the C flat here. We don't learn that yet, or we don't learn this one. Okay, and then actually, if you go up a fifth, because a fifth is actually the opposite of a fourth. If we keep going in fifths, we get to the next keys until we arrive back at C major. And if we go the other way, we can start with the flats, F having 1 flat, and then B flat having 2, etc. There is a mnemonic to help you remember all the sharps and flats, because every new key adds on all the sharps of the previous ones as well as their new one. For the sharps, we can remember it as Father Charles goes down and ends battle. I put the battle in brackets because technically you don't need to know the key with the 7 sharps, which is C sharp major. So F, C, G, D, A, E, and then B, possibly. It's good to know that for the future as well. And then for the flats, you just read the mnemonic backwards. So instead of Father Charles goes down and ends battle, you have battle ends and down goes Charles's father. So this is great because you only need to kind of like learn one and you automatically know the other. So B, E, A, D, G, C, and F. Writing out scales can be quite important for your rough work when you are completing questions on keys and scales. So we're going to take a look at, I'm going to choose a random one, A major. So A major, we know, has 3 sharps, and they are Father Charles goes, F, C, and G. So in theory, it's pretty good if we can name all the sharps and flats in the order in which they appear in the key signature. So if I were to write this, A major, with the key signature, let's do an ascending scale, I would add in the key signature first, F, C, G, and then I would write out a scale from A all the way to A. Now, in every major and minor scale, every single line and space is filled once, okay, on the way up and on the way down. There's never a scale that has 2 A's or even skipping a space, yeah? Never. So that kind of gives you a good idea of, you can keep track of what is, a sharp or what is not. Let's take a look at F sharp major. And let's do this with a key signature. So F sharp major has 6 sharps, Father Charles goes down and ends. So this time I'm not going to include a key signature, I'm just going to write them with accidentals. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write out the scale like this. I'm just going to fill every line and space with a note from F to F. And then I'm going to fill in the accidentals. Accidentals always go in front of the note. Now, because I have 6 sharps here, Father Charles goes down and ends. Everything that's not one of these is automatically a natural. So just like this, F, C, G, everything that's not F, C, and G is going to be a natural. And there's always going to be one of each note name, okay, from the alphabet in every scale. So in this case, I know that B is going to be a natural because that's the only one that's not here. Okay, so other than that, F sharp, there's 2 F sharps because it starts and ends on the same note, of course. And then C sharp is next. G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, and E sharp. Now I'm going to show you this on the piano here. So F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B, C sharp, D sharp, E sharp, F sharp. Now notice how I call this note here an E sharp, okay? That's really important for our theory because this note here is not called F. If we're in F sharp major, because it's F sharp major, of course we know that the F is sharpened. So we can't have F natural and then F sharp, in the same scale, kind of going in one direction. And then the final thing I wanted to look at is the key signatures. So for grade 5, you need to know all your key signatures in every single clef. So there is a little bit of a pattern to this, and in order to sort of demonstrate it, I'm just going to look at the key signature with 6 flats and 6 sharps in every single clef. So I'm going to start with the treble clef here, and I'm going to look at the flats. Because if I show you 6 flats, you'll know 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, okay? Because they never move, they're always in the same position. So for the treble clef, the flats will always start here, in the middle, okay, with the nice B flat, and then go up, battle ends, and down goes Charles's. So you need to memorize the positions of the notes on the clef. And then if we go to the alto clef, the B is here. It's also sort of within the stave, okay? So that's the similarity that they have. And it also has the same shape as the treble. So it goes up, and then down, and then up, down, up like this. And that actually is the exact same for all of the other clefs in the flats keys. So that's a really handy thing to remember. B flat starts here, so kind of within the stave, and then goes up, down, up, down, up. And for the bass clef, the B flat starts here, so again in the middle of the stave. Great. Now moving on to the sharps keys, they are a little bit trickier. So the treble, alto, and bass will all have the same shape. So in this case, F sharp here will be located up here in the treble clef. So start there, and then go down. Father Charles goes down. Now, for the sharps, the A sharp, okay, will always go down. Okay, so it's a little bit irregular there. Father Charles goes down and ends in E sharp. Okay, so that's the shape of the sharps. For the alto clef, it's also the same, exact same shape. F sharp starts here, so kind of relatively high. Father Charles goes down, and ends. We'll take a look at the bass clef here. So the F sharp is here again, kind of relatively high in the stave. Father Charles goes down and ends. Now, the only exception is the tenor clef for the sharps keys. So that's the sort of the odd one out. So in this case, the F sharp starts quite low down here and it has a completely different shape. Father Charles goes down and ends. So you see there, the whole thing is kind of rising upwards in a very regular way, but it looks completely different from the other sharps. So those are sort of the 3 shapes that you need to know. In the first 2 questions of the keys and scales section in the exam, they will be giving you all sorts of keys in different clefs. So they will say, tick the correctly written key signature for E flat major, for example. And then they will give you a selection of these. First thing you need to check is, are they the right accidentals? So you need to know your Father Charles goes down in that order. Okay, are the sharps and flats in that order, or battle ends and down goes? And then the second thing you need to look at is the shape. Is it the correct shape? And this here, what you see on the page, is the correct shape. It's also on page 27, so the first page of your keys and scales chapter, if you have the Discovering Music Theory workbook by Simon Rushby.